and welcome to Driver Picks the Podcast, the show where we talk about
Out of the back seat.
Actually, we've got some news for you. Hello, listeners. Abigail here. I'm so excited to share some big news for the podcast as we reach the end of season 2 and as we celebrate Sam Winchester's birthday today here on May 2nd. As of today, we are relaunching and will be going by the new name of Saving People, Queering Things. Our name change was one part because as we head into season 3, we really want to lean into our queer and story-based analysis of the series. And the other reason is so that we can avoid confusion with our friends at the other Driver Picks the Podcast, a show that we also love very dearly. You can learn more about the name change at our new website, something we are incredibly excited about. You can find that at queeringthingspodcast.com. And you can listen to the end of the show to find out where you can find us on our new social channels. If you're already following us, those handles are going to change automatically. But for now, let's get right into it. Welcome to Saving People, Queering Things, the show where we watch Supernatural and assume everyone is at least a little bit gay. Today, we are exploring Season 2, Episode 21, All Hell Breaks Loose, Part 1, through the theme of reality. And joining me today, this episode, is our new and shiny team, Elena and Noah.
Woo! Woohoo! Woohoo! Hi, friends, we're here.
We've been prepping for this episode and this announcement for several months now, and so it's so exciting to finally have you both officially here
In every capacity, part of the team now.
Feels absolutely unreal to actually be here now.
So before we start this episode, we're going to go around and introduce ourselves for everyone to get to hear your voices again, Elena and Noah, and I'm going to also get you to answer the question, if you could have one of the special children's powers without the demon blood and the curse, what would it be?
If you could have powers without a blood curse upon your family, what would you do?
You know.
So I'm Elena. Pronouns are she and they. Longtime Supernatural fan, been a fan about as long as Abigail, I think about a decade. I think we both became fans in 2011, even though we didn't know each other, which is fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I had one of the special children's powers, I would have to go for the low-hanging fruit and say Andy, just because I would love to just, I don't know, like go up to Jeff Bezos and tell him to not be such a big jerk and to redistribute his wealth and stuff. I think that'd be a good idea.
Go and tell Elon Musk not to buy Twitter.
Yeah, that would be a top tier priority if I had Andy's powers and no blood curse upon my family.
Well, my name is Noah. I've been a long time adjacent Supernatural fan, but this was my first foray into the show, but I've loved it so far. It's been great. I've loved getting to experience it with Abigail and Elena and Sam, and it's been a lot of fun. If I had to choose one of the kids' powers, the demon kiddos, for myself, I would probably go with Jake's powers because his seem pretty straightforward and they make a lot more sense to him at first. I like that sort of reliability that it's basically everything you know, but you're just a little stronger, a little bit more super powered. Not Superman, but Hawkman maybe.
Oh, I see what you did there, and I enjoyed
I
it.
see. Uh-huh.
I'm Abigail. My pronouns are they, them. You've been listening for any length of time, you know me. To go with a different answer, I would go with Sam's powers. Specifically because Sam's powers are kind of varied. Like he obviously has the psychic visions, but he also had some telekinesis in situations of grave danger. So like the ability to like summon the power that you need in a scenario where you need it, that seems like a very valuable power.
Would come in clutch.
You know, self-protective instincts, sort of ability to react in a positive, helpful way.
A spider sense.
Yeah, Sam's got a spidey sense. I'd like Sam's spidey sense.
It's like adrenaline, but make it magic.
Yeah.
Adrenaline if it could save your ass.
Yeah, and other people's asses.
Yeah.
Sam's powers don't do him as much good in this episode, but
they don't.
They really, really don't.
They kind of get him stabbed in the back a little bit.
Oh, too soon.
When did this episode come out? 2006?
Listen.
It's too soon.
It will always be too soon for the last 30 seconds of this episode.
He'll be fine. I'm confident. I think it's a pretty fantastic time for our 30-second road so far.
Yeah, Elena, are you ready to let us know what we've missed on the road so far?
Yes, I am ready.
Love the confidence here.
Yep. You know it.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, go.
So, season 2, road so far. We have John, who dies at the beginning of the season and sacrifices himself for Dean, which makes Dean really sad for a really long time. Dean is also sad because his brother is exhibiting really weird powers and he doesn't know what to do with those powers. And the powers are kind of dark side, maybe. They're kind of scary. And there's a whole lot of craziness that ensues, a lot of trouble with the government. And Sam meeting other special children who he ends up in a frontier land place in this episode. And then he dies. It's sad. It sucks. The end.
I like how you included this episode in that recap.
Yeah. Whoops. Apologies for including the episode in that, but I'm sure Noah will have a very worthy contribution.
No, it's going to fill in the rest of the details of this episode.
I'm ready.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, go.
Okie dokie. So this episode's pretty fantastic and super not important at all. Sam and Dean get separated. Sam ends up with all the demon children in this scary town with all the ghost children. They all get knocked out one by one by the demon, forcing them all to kill each other, narrowing it down to the final 2. Dean and Bobby keep trying to find Sam, and they end up finding the roadhouse, which is all burnt down. When they finally do find Sam, it's just Sam and Jake left. Sam it turns to Dean and then tragically gets struck and dies in Dean's arms.
No. Everyone's fine here. No one has trauma to process.
No biggie. No biggie.
No biggie. We're going to move into our theme discussion. And our theme this week is reality. So we got a lot to say about reality in this episode. So let's jump right in.
It's a really good theme for this one.
Honestly fits so very well. The demon kiddos kind of find out that their entire reality is shaped by one being. Evil.
They didn't ask to be involved in their lives at all.
Not in the slightest. It started when they were 6 months old. They had no choice in the matter.
Well, we've had all these clues about the reality of the special children for months, and Sam and Dean have been just on the edges of it for the whole season, and now we get to actually find out what reality's been hidden from them, and it's bad. It's real bad.
It's a significant change.
Yeah, we get plot delivered through dream sequences. It's a lot.
Well, and the demons finally actually telling these children the truth. I say that with air quotes around the truth, because it's obviously a very manipulated version of the truth to get them to do what he wants. But he is finally telling them what happened to them, all of these powers that they've all had. He's finally telling them this is the reality. This is where they came from.
Well, what's an interesting point there is that the reality each of them is experiencing is different. So it's none of them are experiencing their old realities anymore, but they're also not experiencing the same reality because the demon is coming to them individually in their dreams and telling each of them something different. Because I can't imagine, actually, he might have very well said to all of them, Sam, you're my favorite, Jake, you're my favorite. He could have been saying that to all of them just to hype them up, or he could have only been saying that to one of them. We'll never know.
That was actually one of my questions, is what do you either of you have a theory on that? Do you think that he's saying it to all of them, or is Sam really special among the special children?
I think he told different kids different things depending on what they needed to hear to inspire them to work harder. Somebody might have been motivated more by him being like, oh yeah, that other person is my favorite for sure. Maybe Jake had a competitive streak, and so him insinuating that Sam is better than Jake at being the demon's favorite, whether or not that's something Jake or Sam want to be, maybe that inspires it or fuels it.
That actually is really a really interesting theory, especially when it relates to Sam, because what we've seen of Sam's kind of childhood and the way he interacts with his family is he's always felt different and he's always wanted to be different from like his family in a lot of ways. Like he's wanted to go off and go to Stanford and like live a normal life, but for him going and living a normal life was different. Like Sam wants to sort of stand out, and that's both shown up in like positive and negative ways. It's interesting that the demon like targets him.
It's the classic careful what you wish for.
So like, you wanted to be special, Sam? Like, guess what? You are special.
To answer your question, I think that with the demon, he does have a soft spot for Sam, but it's only because there's a whole lot of the supernatural stuff that he's not going to have to introduce to Sam's worldview because he was already raised a hunter. It was already part of his life. So, you know, as opposed to somebody like Andy or Ava who had to be broken into this world in a weird way, they had to be exposed to all of this and deal with those repercussions, whereas Sam has known about demons since he was a child. So it kind of just, I think that if he is his favorite, I don't really know that he is or not, but I think if he were, it would be for that reason, just because there's a lot of the supernatural that the demon's not going to have to explain to Sam because he already knows the score.
That's true. And Sam also is already like accustomed to killing, not to be really like dark about it. The reality of killing something evil or just killing in general is not new to Sam.
Yeah.
The way it is to Andy or to like we saw that with Andy when we first met him and he ended up having to take out his twin and how that shook him. And it was like a self-defense, defending other people sort of scenario. Whereas like Sam has grown up around a lot of these kind of actions. It's not going to be, I can see the demon thinking, oh, it's not going to be as hard to push you. If I can convince you that this is the only option or the right thing to do, you won't have the same trouble with that.
And because it's not just the fact that they are both hunters, it's also the fact that they are extremely good hunters. Like they are the cream of the crop when it comes to hunters. And so it just makes a lot of sense that he would prefer somebody that's already in the life and who is really good at what they do to be his like golden child.
He wants his champion to be the strongest and the most powerful, and he wants to be proud of them completely, not just who he made them.
He very much shaped the course of their lives without their consent.
Mm-hmm. And we found out that through the season, like through a few other things that have been revealed, that he's been manipulating parts of their lives for a lot longer. And he's been strategic about who he talks to about what and when. So in the episode where we meet Ava, and we also meet a couple of other, like we also meet that other, I don't remember his name, the other special child in that episode that dies really early on in the episode that Gordon kills.
Oh yeah, I forget his name as well.
We find out that like some of these special children have been hearing the demon's voice in their head for a lot longer. Mm-hmm. It's clear that he's been monitoring them since, like, obviously at 6 months old, not knowing where they were going to end up, but been monitoring them their whole lives, watching them develop and strategically like intervening to try and get them primed for what he wanted for them. They all were visited by the demon, and he infected them with demon blood at 6 months old. That's the like
on the 6-month birthday or this. Okay.
On the 6-month birthday. That's the piece that
I thought they all had the same birthday, and I was like, how was this motherfucker doing the Santa Claus thing? Just burning houses down everywhere he goes. Damn.
Does that mean Santa Claus is it? Does that make Santa Claus a demon, or does that make
so.
For more on that, find out in season 3, A Very Supernatural Christmas.
Coming soon.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to.
No, you did. Also, I think they would have figured it out maybe a little bit sooner. Like, I think the hunters and even Ash might have figured it out sooner if they had all been literally born on the same day.
Yeah.
Whereas they had to track the whole year and then the 6 months. So it would have been like, it could have been, they could be stretched out over like really a couple of years between when they were all born and the 6-month anniversary of their birth.
I really love that you mentioned Ash though, because I was just about to ask if we could kind of change gears into the Ash RIP part of the conversation.
In memoriam.
You ready to make me sad? Ash, I love Ash.
I was so broken about him this episode, but I did enjoy, in terms of our discussion for today, how you had that connection of Ash in reality. I was wondering if you wanted to say more about that because I really enjoyed that point.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how in this episode, Ash has obviously been doing this research for a long time, and Ash is brilliant. And so like Ash has a connection to reality even before we get the reveal from the demon. Ash has already figured out what's really going on. And he has this connection to reality, and like everyone is depending on it. Dean and Bobby are depending on it. The Winchesters have been waiting. And even like when Ash calls Dean and is telling him like, this is what's going on, like you've got to come. I'm gonna tell you what's reality, but I can't tell you over the phone because I also know the reality of like it's not safe. And so like Ash's connection to reality is so important. And when they find out he's died, they've like lost that connection, and they don't have any way to know what's really going on because they don't, like Dean and Bobby have not worked it out, and they don't have the information.
Yeah, so it's this weird way of him withholding reality from them.
Mm-hmm.
They don't get to know the reality of their situation until it's too late.
Which is interesting because the demon is like in this episode simultaneously revealing reality to all the children, the special children, and he's trying to protect anyone else, like trying to keep everyone else from knowing by sending demons to burn down the roadhouse and kill Ash.
Trying to keep certain parts of his reality quiet, certain parts of it are being brought into light. It's a whole tango going on here.
I have a theory about Ash.
Oh, okay.
I think I said this one of the other times we met Ash earlier this season, but I think Ash is one of the special children. That's my running theory, is Ash is also a special child. Did I say this last time?
If you did, I forgot it because I'm surprised.
Point number 1. His skill set could be described as technopathy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you did mention this. Yeah.
The demon's been going around and plucking special children and throwing them into Frontierland and letting them duke it out. But he's been throwing special children that don't know what's going on yet, that are maybe getting closer to the truth, but they don't know. They still have no idea why he has these powers. But Ash figures it out. And so when Ash figures it out, my theory is that the demon goes, I'm not going to throw you into this cage match. I'm just going to kill you because you are too close to the truth here. And I can't manipulate you with the truth. Wow. Like I'm manipulating all these other children. And so so instead of letting him duke it out with everyone else, he just takes Ash out.
That's a brilliant theory.
And it makes me sad. Yeah. I don't have anything else to say about that. That's a personal headcanon that I hold about Ash that I do think fits. I think it can
support
be argued.
it.
Yeah, that's a really good theory.
I'm a big fan. I liked Ash a lot. He was a really cool character. He had great vibes, and he didn't deserve to have an off-screen death.
Yeah.
Much less a death.
That's literally confirmed via his watch. Come on.
Yeah.
And Dean's face when you see that he, like, because literally Bobby has said, Dean's like, have you seen Ellen? Bobby's like, no. What about Ash? And literally Dean turns and finds the watch. And it's like, it's one of the first times they've been confronted with death so many times, but it's one of the first times that they've been confronted with like a really gruesome,
and that I think a death of a friend.
Yeah, someone so close to them. Like they've obviously lost John, they've lost other people, but this is like
it's different when you lose a peer
off screen. They couldn't even try to stop it.
Yeah, they had no idea. Well, yeah, they literally show up and it's happened.
Mm-hmm.
Like they have no recourse. And we talked when we first met Ash, we talked about him and Dean's sort of bisexual vibes. The rapport between the two of them.
I'm just saying, it doesn't seem very heterosexual of two bros to just remember the watch that the other ones wear. That's all I'm saying. Because when you think about it, we see Ash hold up his watch, and so that's the cue to us, the viewer. So it's the writer speaking to us, letting us know, like, okay, this watch is going to be important. But Dean has no idea about that shot in the universe because it's, he's not.
That's true.
There's no cinematography here. So in a weird way, that's him recognizing the watch is letting us know that that's something that he independently knows about Ash, that he wears this watch.
And enough that he can cue in.
Yeah, that makes it kind of more heartbreaking. I just made myself sad.
Yeah, I mean, well, and like you said, like losing a peer is so different, and losing someone who, this is like, Ash isn't Ash is in the hunter world, but Ash isn't the hunter. Ash wasn't on a
No.
hunt. Ash didn't die tragically
He was
because
literally
he was
in
fighting
a bar.
something. He was in a bar doing research.
He was in a safe place for him.
He was in a place that was supposed to be safe. Like the Roadhouse is supposed to be safe, and the whole world is supposed to be safer, and the world is getting progressively more dangerous in this
Yeah.
episode.
It really feels like their world's shrinking in around him this episode.
Kind of feels like all hell's breaking loose.
Oh, there it is. Had to happen at least once this episode.
At least once. I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize for art, okay?
Sometimes. My roommate's cat is named Ash, so that was helpful. Whenever Ash died, I said, "Oh, hey, look, there's other Ash. Come on." It's like,
Yeah, kind of one final note on Ash is like the thing I was thinking about in terms of our theme of reality is that we tend to think of, and I think Sam and Dean have been pursuing the truth about Sam with the idea that like if we know the truth, we'll be better able to protect each other, we'll be better
Mhm.
able to like stop whatever bad thing it is. But Ash is this example of like knowing what's real doesn't always protect you. And in Ash's case, it puts him in more danger. If he had not poked the bear, he would be
would've
alive.
been fine.
There would have been no reason to kill him.
unless he was a special
Unless
child.
he's a special child, in which case,
It was coming in at some
Theories
point.
confirmed.
yeah. So I mean, that makes Ash sort of doomed anyway.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
Ash's pursuit of reality is like what puts him in what means he doesn't even get a shot at fighting to stay alive.
Yeah. Charts. It's not fair.
I want to talk about the special children and the whole Frontierland cage match introduction that we get to all of them, because we haven't really touched on that a whole lot yet. And I think it's interesting through this theme of reality.
It's
Okay,
really
well.
tough to watch that happen.
Getting them all put together or knock each other out one by one.
The one by one. Yeah, I mean, just because everybody there is so confused and so reluctant to believe Sam until literally that, what is it, the Achiri demon
Mhm.
swoops in on Jake, and then he's like, by the way, that's demon. You know,
Mm.
he says it so matter-of-factly because he's annoyed that no one was believing him before, but they had no freaking reason to believe him. Like,
Yeah.
if somebody just, came up to me and was like, hi, demons are real. I mean, mind you, they all did just get teleported. to
Yeah, if I
this-
got teleported
They all have
to the middle of the
powers
woods
too.
and
Yeah.
they knew that I had powers without me telling them, then I might trust them a little bit.
I might go, okay, I don't know if I agree with your theory, but it is like a potential valid theory. There's some things, and like Andy particularly has some good reasons. Like I understand Jake and Lily being like a little more skeptical because neither of them, it seems like, have had any contact with the supernatural other than their own powers.
But
Nope.
even Andy, like, bless his heart, when he was just like, sorry, still adjusting to demons being real. Like, in which Andy is all of us.
Yeah.
Andy, okay, that's
Andy-
another.
Is high as shit when he shows up because he
Yeah.
stumbles out of like the closet basically and is like, oh dude, I was like right on my last bong rip or something. And yeah, so he shows up and he's like, whoa guys, what's happening? And then he gets thrown into the middle of it all. And then gets
And
tragically-
Andy has the most not like pre-knowledge about the supernatural because he's like already met Sam and Dean. He had the whole thing with his twin. He's like already seen some like dark shit.
and he's
like,
been using his
yeah.
powers for a while now. So
Yeah,
he
but
knows about that.
he's been like using his powers to like fuck around and find out in a
Yeah.
pretty harmless sort of way.
And
And-
now he's finding out.
Now he's finding out that these,
Yeah.
he's finding out that, he can't like escape the dark side of these powers. Like the reality is that these powers are not just something he can use without consequence. And even the fact that he's gotten better at the powers means that then he's more of a threat, which is like Ava takes him out.
Yeah, he's very much in the, I survived the fuck around stage and all I got was this lousy t-shirt and to death.
Yeah, which it is interesting, and I do think this makes sense. Like Ava targets Andy first because Andy is in a lot of ways the biggest threat at the beginning because Andy's the one that tries to like get them outside help.
Hmm.
Does, like, he manages to like reach out to Dean before he dies, but Ava goes, oh, you're the most dangerous, like you are the first of these 3 other children, you are the most dangerous to me.
Yeah, because we never know the truth about this, so it's only speculation, but we don't know that Ava can project her powers beyond herself, but Andy was able to do that.
Yeah, and Andy's able to do it because he's been practicing, like he's been training, he's been honing his skills, and I think Ava recognizes that means, just like her, like she has also been honing her skills, opening, like Andy's also been opening himself up in a lot of ways too, but because he's been doing it just to like make homophobes uncomfortable.
Yeah,
As anyone should with their special powers.
as anyone should.
Like legitimately, that's what Andy's been doing, is just making homophobes uncomfortable with his powers, which
I do appreciate that our first episode as Saving People Queering Things is an episode that involves the line gay porn all day.
It's fitting.
it's fitting. I mean, we're going to talk about this later when we get to our
Gay porn?
No.
Nope. Not that kind of podcast, kids.
No, we're going to talk more about this thing that I'm about to say. But later, but like the fact that this episode also features our first explicitly canonically stated queer character in Lily is really fitting that that's our first episode under this new name. But also tragic, and we're going to talk about that later. So
honestly,
we'll get there.
another thing about reality is the conversation between Sam and Jake, I think, is a really interesting exploration of reality, because Jake is the other special child that like stays calm and can see through Sam specifically. Like,
because he's seen a lot of people like Sam in Sam's position stepping up to be the leader, and he constantly sees a whole bunch of different types of leaders as a soldier, I assume. And so he's got a pretty good ability to read people once they're put in high stress situations like that. The decisions they make, how they make them, and what they prioritize, he can read that. He doesn't necessarily assume that it's wrong, but he can read that, and he can see through Sam's tough facade.
You find a lot of instances of hunters and military folks having a pretty significant crossover.
Well, and of recognition, like the amount of times in the show that someone from the military will meet Sam and Dean and go, oh, were you in the military? Like we'll kind of go, the way you act, the way you carry yourself, the way you lead is very reminiscent of that, which, I mean, we know that that's a lot to do with John's parenting.
Literally, I think in the pilot, that is a line where he's like, we were raised like soldiers.
Yeah, and John was in the military, so like John has raised them that way. That like conversation about that and some of the challenge issues with that is probably a conversation for another day, but I think it's really interesting you point that out, Noah. Because like I think Jake, even though Jake doesn't fully grasp the like demon reality stuff, he does grasp the like danger reality stuff, and goes like, and him and Sam ally together to be like, we're going to lead, we're going to protect these people, we're going to try and keep everyone calm, even if we're going to kind of try to hide the reality of how freaked out we are.
Yeah,
it's an important distinction.
Very much so.
Yeah. And that line of Sam's where Sam goes, you want to know the truth, like you want to know reality, like I have a brother who's telling me he's going to watch out for me, but I don't think I believe it. Like I think
that's a low point for me of that episode, just knowing that he's hit a critical mass point where he doesn't even know if he believes in Dean.
Well, I don't even think it's that he doesn't believe in Dean. I think it's that he doesn't believe.
I think he believes in Dean, but not that Dean has what he needs to stop this.
That this is so much bigger than them. Sam, I think, feels very alone in that, goes, oh, this stuff that's been happening to me is actually huge. And, you know, that line from Bobby, storm's coming, you are smack in the middle of it.
Yeah.
But
It's heavy
yeah,
stuff.
I also think it's interesting how initially their plan is to kind of keep everyone else in the dark about reality in order to protect them from being more afraid. And I think that ultimately doesn't serve everyone else in the scenario, because ultimately that means that Andy particularly, but also Lily, are like less protected because
They aren't aware of the danger.
and they're not, and because Sam and Jake misinterpret Ava's fear, which obviously is a ploy on her part, but they misinterpret it as fear, and they don't even consider the idea that she could become dangerous. And so they miss that, and ultimately Andy's the one that pays the price for that.
Andy deserved better.
Andy deserved better. I wanted to just see more of Andy, honestly.
Me too. He was a character that had many different facets and could have been used quite a few more times, but I mean, not if he's got demon blood.
Well, and as was made really clear in this episode, we get it really obviously from quite early on that like only one of these kids is walking out of here.
Yeah.
And we are led to believe that it's going to be Sam.
Oh,
until the last moment.
I mean, he's the main character of the show, right? Why would they kill him off?
That's a good segue into our last kind of little few notes on reality, which are really on like Sam.
Yeah.
Like Sam's getting a slice of reality and it's affecting his perception of himself.
Yeah, this is the episode where he learns about his mom and the fact that she knew him.
Yeah, that she recognized.
His reality fundamentally shifts when he knows that, I think. Yeah. Because he always, I think, saw Mary as just a victim of circumstance. And when he sees this moment of recognition for her of the demon, it completely blows everything that he knows out of the water. And is going to affect everything he's going to do going forward, because like, holy shit, not only did my mom know who you were, but that has to have had something to do with why she died.
And does that, and the big question now, like it tells him a bunch of things, but also leaves him with a ton of questions, because now he goes, okay, so like I was infected with the demon blood. Is Mary, like, does this start with me or does this start with Mary? Does this start with something in Mary's past that I don't know about? Or does this start with like the demon choosing me and Mary's collateral damage? And now it's really unclear as to which one of those is true.
Well, because doesn't the demon say that to Sam in this episode? He says that, you know, she was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yes, but then the recognition from her recognizing him adds an extra layer of like, okay, so the demon's clearly not telling me everything, because she's clearly, yes, she's in the wrong place at the wrong time, but why does she recognize him?
But she's not just some innocent victim that was unaware of who the demon was and why he's doing some bad stuff.
Yeah.
You get a lot of really important seeds of information that will come to light in the next 3 seasons all through this episode. Like, it really lays a decent foundation here for a bunch of story shit that we are gonna get the answers to, but it's done really well in this episode.
Really, really is. And we're gonna talk next week about the season 2 finale through the theme of free will. And so I think it's interesting we're talking about reality here, because everyone's choices and like the way they exercise their free will is so tied to what they think about reality and what they think is true about the situation. And that goes for like Sam and Jake and Dean particularly, but that's I think really, really interesting.
Before we wrap up, one last note about reality. Dean's entire reality revolves around keeping his younger brother safe and he spends the whole episode trying to get that back, trying to achieve his reality, and then the moment he has it within his grasp, it slips away forever. That's crushing. Crushing.
No, I didn't sign up for this. I know I just joined the podcast.
You kind of
but
did.
I think I
You
quit.
kind of did.
You signed up to talk about this show every week. What did you
Yeah.
think was going to happen?
Yeah.
No,
was I
that's a
thinking?
super good point, though, Noah. Like, I think that's so
That's a brilliant point.
because we've barely talked about Dean this whole episode, which is a
Yeah.
strange thing for us. But like, yeah, that
Tragic.
is it. That is what it is for Dean. Is
This
it's
episode
whole
is
reality
Sam-centric.
and it makes sense. That's the whole arc of this season has been leading us to this point. But it's interesting because not only is Sam's reality sort of shattered, but Dean's reality is shattered by him being unable to protect Sam.
And that actually was something I had earlier in the notes, but I forgot to mention. Dean has this really interesting relationship to reality too, which we kind of talked about, but he's never exhibited any kind of powers before this. And even still, he's not exhibiting a power necessarily here. He's just having a power projected onto him. But the confusion that he experiences in that moment where he doesn't know, like, am I having a vision? Like, no, I'm not. I don't have Sam's freaky visions. I'm not some psychic. Like the way he freaks out about it because he doesn't want to have anything to do with that. And specifically the way that Bobby shows care for him during that moment really, really hits me.
Because it doesn't matter to Bobby. Like, if Dean also turns out to have powers, like, that's not going to change the way Bobby treats him, because it didn't change the way he treated Sam. But it would change the way Dean feels about himself, which is why he freaks out so badly.
Dean has such low opinion of himself, and we're just going to see that more and more, it feels like.
Because we like to torture ourselves.
Well, and because of that whole reality shattering sort of thing, like, his whole goal has been to protect Sam from going dark side, and now he's holding Sam, like, while Sam dies, because he couldn't protect Sam. But not because Sam went dark side, but because, like, Sam is
Just
killed.
lost.
And he doesn't know everything that's been happening. Like, he doesn't know any of this stuff about the special children. All he knows is that, like, someone has just killed his little brother right in front of him.
Well, the bit with Dean and reality is just, he has this moment right when he walks into this frontier land and he sees Sam, where he has this sigh of relief of like, okay, my brother is in my sights now. That means that he's safe. And just the way that reality crumbles within moments continues to be, I think, one of, if not the most heartbreaking moment, like, of the series for me. It's really high up there because he thinks that he's going to be fine.
Well, and they've had so many close calls, even in this season, like, where they have shown up just in time, where Dean has just managed to save Sam. That's been the pattern, like in Croatoan, in Born Under a Bad Sign. Like, his ability to, like, show up. He always succeeds, and he always manages, even when he like loses Sam, like, doesn't know where he is, he's always managed to find him before it's too late. And this time he finds him and it's literally 30 seconds too late. Like, if he's 30 seconds earlier, he's able to make it to Sam before
less
Jake
than
stabs
30
him.
seconds. Yeah, it's a matter of moments, and that's what makes it so gut-wrenching, I think.
Yeah.
The worst possible timing for Dean.
And like, we don't talk about this a lot with this episode, but like, Bobby also has to see this happen. Like, Bobby also has to see this happen to one of his kids right in front of him. And he immediately springs into action and goes, I'm going to chase down. He tries to chase down Jake.
You saying
But he
that
doesn't
made me realize the heartbreaking thing. Not only does he have to see Sam die, he has to see Dean lose Sam.
While he's there to hold Dean.
And he has to,
Well, he doesn't go chase after Jake.
He doesn't get a chance to, like, even be there in that moment for Dean or for Sam. He immediately is they're still in crisis. They're still in like danger mode, but he watches this happen. And like, we're going to talk next episode about like Dean's sort of devastation in the wake of this, but Bobby also is
Bobby doesn't really ever
devastated.
seem to get a chance to process the trauma around this at all.
No,
Not that we see anyway in the narrative.
no. On that very sad note, we're going to move into another segment today. We're going to move into Going Meta, where we are tracking lore, talking about the Bechdel test, pop culture, lots of fun stuff. First up, Bechdel test.
Now, we've got 2 named female characters who have somewhat of a backstory, but they don't actually interact much.
At all.
They're in, like-
Individually, for sure not.
Yeah, they're in like two scenes together.
Yeah,
In their group scenes.
And
Yeah.
Ava calls out to Lily right before they find Lily hanging from a
Not a conversation.
windmill.
Yep.
Well, and both women get fridged in this episode.
Yep.
So
Fridges for everyone. There's a discount at Kohl's.
no Bechdel test.
0.
No pass.
Moving on to the lore check. Did you guys notice any super cool tidbits of lore for this episode?
We talked a little bit about this already. In the vision that Sam has, that the demon gives Sam of the past, and Mary sees the demon and says, "It's you." And Sam says, "She knew you." Noah, do you have any predictions about why Mary knows the demon? Because you haven't seen later on.
True, very true. I would say it's gotta be some sort of deal that she and John made with the demon to, I'm gonna say, to have a kid.
Ooh.
Because I'm just gonna stake a little in the ground.
But like, to have which kid?
Jorge Nolos Trace.
Okay.
Because I do know that there's more to the family tree than is currently clarified. So I could have something to do with that too, because gotta explain away a lot going on now. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna stick with.
Okay.
Respectable.
No spoilers.
Yeah, we'll come back and check in on that prediction when we find more out about Mary and John. Other lore, we have the Achiri demon, which Sam says is a demon that disguises itself as a little girl. That's the demon that Ava controls. So obviously we have that the special children can control demons. This is and we've seen a couple of demons similar to this where they're not really like, they don't seem very cognizant. They don't seem like, they're not communicative. They're just kind of like violent. And I think this is, to my knowledge, the only time we see an Achiri demon specifically.
We never see those demons again.
It's
or
not
even hear
really-
mention of them.
Yeah.
Damn.
Which is a great segue to the Lost Cannon Jar, which we'll be dropping that demon into.
Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna see like less and less demons that are just like because this demon almost functions a little bit like a violent spirit.
Yeah.
And
Especially
we
the
don't see a
fact
lot of
they
demons
can
like
get
that.
her with iron.
Little
Mhm.
foot soldier.
Yeah, doesn't seem like they're very independent, which most of the other demons we've met, even in terms of like Meg and the Yellow Eye Demon and some of the other demons we met at the end of season 1, were independent. Like they
Yeah.
were working for someone, but they were independent and communicative.
Yeah, I think up to this point we have like the Achiri demon, we have generic demons, Crossroads,
Mhm.
and then your big guys like Yellow Eyes.
Yeah.
The
So we
big
have
one.
like a bunch of different categories of demons, but a Achiri demon is one that kind of is not
Fades
mentioned
away.
again. Yeah.
Damn.
R.I.P. Achiri demon.
Except not really, because
Yeah, you're kind of a demon, so
Yeah.
Rest in pieces.
Rest in pieces.
Anything else for the Lost Cannon Jar?
And if you're a newer listener, Lost Cannon Jar is where we place pieces of lore, pieces of information that the show gives us that it doesn't really follow up on. Specifically, if we find something really interesting that they've placed as a tidbit, and we know, Elena and I specifically, that they're going to contradict that later, or that they're just never going to pick it up again. Another thing for Lost Cannon Jar in this episode that's sort of Lost Cannon Jar adjacent, Yellow Eyes says to Sam, he says, "I'm looking for the best and brightest of your generation. Well, there's other generations, but let's just worry about yours." And so as like the demon is implying pretty strongly that there's some demon blood link to other generations. Obviously, Sam's generation is just those kids born in 1983. But we also saw earlier this season that the demon sought out that small child, Rosie Holt, in, I don't remember which episode it is. And that's obviously, that was a baby 23 years after Sam was born. But that is unfortunately going to be the kind of extent of us dealing with
we get of that.
other generations of potentially like special children, and we don't really get to see any fallout of this, unfortunately, because it's very interesting. The idea that there could have been just like many, so the idea that is that it might be many other children in the world with like some demonic powers, but we're not
in different ages.
and we're unfortunately not really going to see fallout from that.
Damn, that's
You
disappointing.
gotta wonder how long
Yeah.
the yellow-eyed demon has been doing this.
Honestly, he could have been doing it because what's to say Sam's is the first?
Yeah,
That's also true. It's
he could have
interesting.
been doing this for generations and generations back.
Yeah, how long has this plan
Hundreds.
been in place? And we're gonna get in the following next episode, we're gonna get some more information about like why Yellow Eyes had this cage match, why he's trying to get someone, like what his actual end game is. We're gonna find out some of that next episode, but it's not really gonna link to this other generations thing.
Damn.
Into the cannon jar it goes.
That feels like the perfect time to move into one of my favorite sections, the pop culture section. I have a favorite pop culture moment from this episode. Do you guys have your favorite?
I gotta say, I'm a big fan of the D Hasselhoff. Just the way he says that. Like whenever
And he's like, okay.
and it's the absolutely flippant way in which Sam goes, yeah, it's Dean's signature. Like this is a totally normal signature for a man named Dean Winchester to have.
100% normal. 100%
Sam's like,
normal.
I'm not gonna explain, you're just gonna roll with it. And Andy's like, yeah, I get it, your lives are weird. And it makes me also remember that like all the rapport that Andy and Dean had in Andy's first episode. I wish we had gotten more of that in this. Like, I'm sad that we didn't get to see Andy and Dean interact again.
Yeah.
And we never will.
Oh,
assuming-
why
Thanks
would
for that
you do
reminder,
that?
Noah. I needed that
I know,
reminder.
it hurts. It hurts. I'm sorry.
That was just
His last moment, his last connection with Dean is this moment. There is a Shakespeare reference. Sam goes, "It's a brave new world," which is a reference to The Tempest. And Andy makes a Disneyland reference.
Spoke up in freaking Frontierland.
Andy,
He's not
high out of
wrong,
his
though.
mind, is like, where are we?
Who are we?
I'll do you one better. Why are we? Anyway, sorry, that was a terrible reference. Anyway,
I think that's pretty much all the pop culture references this episode, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, all the ones we kind of wanted to talk about.
Shout out Aldous Hodge, love him. All of his work that he does. He's just always shows up and shows out.
He is pop culture.
He is pop culture.
He's
Yeah.
very good in this role. He plays Jake Jake's a good character.
He really takes what little screen time they give him and makes it shine.
That brings us to our gaydar section. So this is anything that we notice about sexuality, gender, relationship dynamics. We kind of shoehorn it all in there. There's some stuff in this episode. We talked about Andy already and his whole
Gay
I'm gonna-
porn all day. all day.
The specific quote is gay porn all hours of the day.
All
Nice.
hours of the day.
We don't need to talk anymore about that. We
Yeah.
kind of covered it earlier. It's not really much else to say. It's
But we
clearly
do-
meant in the writing as a throwaway comment, but it does tell us some things about Andy's character that we kind of
There's
like.
plenty of situations where I could imagine that would be a very useful payback for people in my personal life. You know who you are if you're listening. I doubt you are
Particularly
because of the
living
name
in
of the
the
show,
state of
but
Texas.
living in the state of Texas, there's quite a few people out there that would have gotten that from me if I had that opportunity, but I'm not, and so here we are.
Thank you for that.
I think you drew the line of like, I don't have this power, so that's why I'm here.
I said, and so now I'm here saying I would on a podcast, and I'm gonna put that out there. So close enough. They won't
Okay.
hear this. It's fine.
So obviously the much more important queer representation that we get in this episode is with Lily, who is our first explicitly, canonically, verbally affirmed queer person. She references her girlfriend.
What happened to the girlfriend, Abigail?
Wait.
Oh.
Let's cheer the first queer character before we point out how bad they are. Woohoo! Yeah, queer character. Woohoo. Okay, so
We got one of you for a whole minute and a half.
and everything about her story was tragic. So
Tragic.
that's the thing with Lily, is everything about her story is tragic. She's one of the special children. She has powers, but her power is the same as one of the characters that Gordon killed a few episodes ago, where she touches someone and basically like electrocutes them. She says, I touch people and their hearts stop. And she then tells the other special children that she accidentally touched her girlfriend. So Lily says this, like tells this piece of information to the other special children because they're saying, oh, you know, we're all in this situation, we've got all this stuff in common, we should band together. And Lily's like, don't say we, like, I don't have anything in common with any of you. You've just all described your powers. She's like, you have visions, you can lift stuff, you know, you can make people see gay porn. Like, she's like, I don't have anything in common with any of you. She's like, I accidentally touched my girlfriend. She's like, I'm in a nightmare. It keeps getting worse. I think it's really unfortunate. And like that the first time we're getting a queer character in this show, their whole story is a tragedy, and their tragedy is connected to their queerness, both in the fact that like obviously her girlfriend dies and also she dies and she's the cause of her girlfriend's death, and then her own death immediately follows when she tries to escape, and the fact that like, you know, touching someone and their heart stops, and there's all of this like metaphorical stuff about someone's heart. And we talked a little bit, I think we talked a little bit when we did our episode on faith about how it's interesting that Dean almost dies from a heart attack
Multiple
and
times.
then is saved when a gay man has a heart attack in his place. It's interesting that then again we're getting Lily, another queer character, with the same kind of narrative punishment for their queerness, what feels like a narrative punishment for their queerness. And even like Ava states this thing where she like right after Lily dies, she says to Sam, she said, you know, you said we were chosen for a reason. That's not chosen, that's dead.
Yeah.
No, at that point, Ava did that killing, right? Off screen.
It's pretty established that Ava is responsible for that killing. But that's also interesting because Ava chooses to
Point it
take
out
her
and-
opportunity.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Make
She's
it.
really done so like master manipulating in this episode.
Oh, because she manages to make it entirely not look like her. Like she's nowhere near, and Lily's death does not look at all like it's on her hands.
No, she's not on anyone's radar.
And she makes it look like Lily, like either someone killed Lily or Lily killed herself.
Yeah.
Because of her fear.
Which would be even more heartbreaking somehow. Like it just there's nothing about her that isn't completely and utterly depressing.
And I think like I have such a weird mix of emotions with that because this show has a really complicated relationship with queer characters and then queer fans.
Mhm.
And
That's an understatement of the century.
Yeah, I'm wildly understating it, and we're not going to get into the like details of that, particularly in terms of the fans. But like, we are all queer people watching and talking about this show, and it's always interesting navigating conversations about queer characters when the narrative so often is violent towards them.
It feels biased to an extreme. And I don't think that's going away anytime soon.
It doesn't. It stays that way for
in Supernatural.
Sadly, yeah.
In general media, it's
yeah. I meant within the context of the show, it stays that way.
Yeah. And we're gonna kind of keep talking about that, and part of the reason that we even our name change and our perspective and our focus in this show is on queering the narrative, on finding those moments and claiming them. In terms of both explicitly stated queer characters and non-explicitly queer coded characters. But I think, it's sobering to like start that off really significantly with a character like Lily. Everyone else who dies in this episode dies because they're a special child. Lily, it seems way more targeted.
Yeah, because you could always make the argument, oh, well, they talk about how Brady lost Ava and, Sam lost Jess. And it's like, yes, everybody is losing people in this narrative because it is a narrative that is surrounded and enveloped in loss in many ways. But this one, just because of the quickness with which it happens, the violent way in which it is shown, and the fact that even before this character got here, we're going to set up that her entire story was having a power that made her kill her own girlfriend. There were choices made, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Who doesn't even get a name?
No.
You were talking about Jess and Bryce or
Brody.
Yeah.
But girlfriend doesn't even get a name. Disrespectful.
Yeah. And like her power is, everyone else's powers has some upside as well as some downsides. Her power has literally no upsides. There's nothing, there's not been a single moment since she got her powers where she's been safe or where anyone around her has been safe. That's a kind of a sobering place to end this section with. We will talk about all of these themes again very soon, I'm sure. But we're going to move from that into our episode mixtape. What we've been doing all season is having each of our hosts recommend a song that reminds them of the episode, and we're collecting that into a season 2 mixtape that will be available for you all as of next episode. So, Elena, do you have a song for this?
Yeah, so I scrolled through an older playlist I have that's called Teenage Angstland. Because it felt fitting because there's lots of angst in this episode. And the song that I came across that felt like it embodied some of what goes on in this episode is Scars by Boy Epic. Some of the lyrics to that song, there's a part of it that says, run love, I'm the truth that you're afraid of, I'm a fever that you made up, just a martyr on a bridge that's burning down. Just a lot of really heavy lyrics.
Damn.
About trauma, which is this whole episode is trauma, the whole thing.
Yeah, this whole show.
The song that I have today is Demons by Imagine Dragons.
Yes.
Classic.
Again, a very Sam-centric sort of mood. But the whole like idea of don't get too close, it's dark inside, it's where my demons hide. Like all this whole episode, the demon sort of whispering in Sam's ear, like, just come along with it. Just go along with the plan. Just give into it. Just let yourself go dark side. Ava says that, you have no idea what you can do once you give into it. Even at the end, like when Sam and Jake are fighting and Sam gets the drop on Jake and he almost takes Jake out. And you see that moment of like, it was a war inside of him of going, I could end this right now. I could guarantee that I get out of here, or I could not, and I could not fall into the demon's trap. And I think this song like emotionally reflects that kind of conflict that's going on for Sam in this episode.
Fantastic song.
Beautiful, beautiful, love it. I'm gonna have to go with "Dead Astronaut" by Ryan Oakes.
Writing
It's a
that
song
down.
talking about how if I can't be what you want and what you need, then I might as well just be a dead astronaut, because I'm about as useless as that.
Jeez.
It's
Okay.
really great and poetic. It's great. It's wholesome.
Definitely giving that a listen.
Talks about I see it as Sam trying to be the dead astronaut for the demon, trying to be anti his plans. It's a great list.
With that brings us to our last segment of This and Every Week, and that is our blessings. And in this segment, we choose a character and we bless them for their actions, their intentions, their suffering, their good fortune, whatever we feel like we want to identify and call out in those characters. So, Elena, who do you want to bless this week?
We always know that I go for this one.
Mhm.
He's my wonderful low-hanging fruit, but I'm sorry, he deserves to be blessed this episode. It's Dean. The heartbreak that boy has to go through, that man has to go through, losing his brother, is a type of pain that I would not wish on anybody ever, fictional or otherwise. And so my heart goes out to him this episode. Losing family is the hardest thing, and this is like, for him, this is the last of his family, like
Besides Bobby, who's right behind him, you know.
Oh yeah.
But this is his last semblance of blood family. Oh.
Yeah. And
and it hasn't been that long since he lost John.
Yeah.
And that wrecked him.
Yeah, that destroyed him in every way. And we know from episodes earlier in this season, like we know with Croatoan, when Sam is in danger, Dean's just like, I'm thinking of packing it all in. Like, if I can't have my brother in my life, I don't want to live. And that, like, Dean is a character who struggles with suicide ideation throughout the entirety of the series, and it's no stronger than at the end of this episode and the beginning of the next one. And so I know it's a lot, it's heavy, but he has my heart for that. So my blessings to Dean.
Very fitting. Very fitting. I'm going to have to give my blessing to Andy. I really love Andy, and he's such a wholesome character who just tries to be the light in everybody else's day. You know, just wants to make everybody else smile. I see Andy as the lighthearted one in the group. If he had been given the opportunity to join their team and be a little demon hunting sidekick for a while, I think he would have loved that and would have done great. I just want to bless him for being the light of the episode, and he deserved better than he got.
Yeah, that's really
very true.
That's lovely. I'm gonna bless Sam this episode because a million reasons. Honestly, this is, like we said earlier, this is a Sam-centric episode, but specifically for his refusal to give in to any idea of destiny that requires him to become a killer of like innocent people. Like Sam's whole orientation this episode is towards how many people can I save? How can we get out of this alive? And how can I'm not going to use the fact that I'm afraid. I'm not going to use these horrible situations to turn me into someone who then inflicts violence on other people. He doesn't do that with anyone in this episode. He fights so hard to not do that with Ava, even when he realizes what she's doing, and with Jake, he doesn't deliver that final blow because that's not the kind of person that he wants to be. And that's what we've seen from Sam all season. And so this is like kind of a culminating blessing for his actions all season of he's trying so hard to be good and and he makes that choice, and like he pays that choice with his life at the end of this episode. And so a blessing for him sticking to the thing that makes him a good person despite the cost.
Very fitting. Very good.
And,
Wholesome blessings.
if I may, I would like to offer an honorary mention for the blessings this week to our girl Lily,
Yes.
because we've already said why, really,
Yeah.
but she very much deserved better.
Yeah. A blessing for like a queer character who we wish didn't have a tragic ending.
Amen.
So, with those blessings, we have reached the end of our episode today. If you are a new listener, you've joined us at a fantastic time as we launch into our new era as Saving People, Queering Things. You can subscribe to our show wherever you get your podcasts. Over the next couple of days and weeks, you're going to see all of our social media handles and our logos change. So make sure you're following us so you don't lose us during that change.
And for all of those fancy new social media handles, you can find us on TikTok and Tumblr and Instagram, where we are at Queering Things Pod. And you can find us on Twitter at queering_things. Come chat with us about the episode on Discord or on any of those channels. And we will include all of that in the links to our show notes and on our brand new website, queeringthingspodcast.com.
Yes.
Check it out for all the things.
I will say, Elena did just show us the website in its nearly fully finished form, and it is glorious, beautiful. Can't wait for you guys all to see it. Make sure you go check it out. queeringthingspodcast.com. It's gorgeous. Gives a whole bunch of descriptions about episodes, the hosts. She put a lot of work into it, and it shows.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you.
So we're so excited about this website, and Elena has poured their heart and soul into it, and it's beautiful. We do recommend that you go look at it. And if you're looking for links to any of the things we've mentioned in this episode, to any of our personal social media handles, everything is available on that website.
queeringthingspodcast.com is our new hub on the internet.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that shout out. Thank you both. I had a lot of fun making it because
I
I enjoy talking about all this with you kids.
It's so much
we have
fun.
a good time here.
Yeah, we do. Honestly,
even when we have sad episodes, we still.
I had just as much fun recording this the second time as I did the first time.
Honestly. Comes full circle. Be sure to ride along with us next week as we come to the end of the season with All Hell Breaks Loose Part 2 through the theme of free will.
Whoop whoop. Thank you all for coming along for the ride, and we wish you a peaceful road until we meet again.